H-A-Y, last name T as in Tom, H-A-Y-E-R. I'm a member of a couple different groups, the Gay Liberation Network, as well as the Uptown Tent City Organizers Group. With me here today is Rick Garcia, who along with me is a co-plaintiff in this suit. But I should add that there's many, many people beyond us who not only witnessed the events that are described in the lawsuit, but are probably going to be testifying or giving affidavits. There are many, many witnesses to what we charge as being a blatant violation of the Illinois Open Meetings Act. I mean, really slam dunk, blatant violation by the City Council in 2 meetings in a row, the May meeting and the June meeting. And they used these closed City Council meetings to ram through, frankly, measures that we're very upset about. One of them that we're most upset about is a $16 million TIF to fund luxury high-rises on Lakeshore Drive. And there will be other folks who will speak more to the particulars of that and why we were attending that particular City Council meeting. But I'd like to take a few steps back and discuss really what this means to everyone in Chicago. The fact that people in the general public are apparently no longer allowed to attend City Council meetings because the mayor and or his allies pack the entire gallery and, if anything, might let people in way late to the meeting, says that even the fig leaf of democracy that we are so used to here in Chicago is gone. We have a mayor who ran on the position that he was going to have the, getting the quote here, open, accountable, and transparent government that the city of Chicago has ever seen. The most open and transparent city council and city government that we've ever seen. And if anything, those of us who have been active in this city for many years have seen things are even worse than they were under the Richard M. Daley and other previous administrations. Rick Garcia, again, my co-plaintiff, will be speaking to that in a few moments. But I think that we have to say that people in the city of Chicago are sick and tired of measures being cooked at the top and then rammed through our city council with no transparency, with no attempt at true resident and citizen involvement. And this has got to stop. There's a reason why this mayor has got such low approval ratings. It's not only things like the Laquan McDonald murder and cover-up, but it's the fact that he over and over again pulls through measures like this TIF and other things with not even the appearance of any semblance of input from the public. And just to the privileged few, not just to the people who are on the mayor's call list, but the general public of Chicago as it should be, as mandated by the Illinois Open Meetings Act. So the mayor has promised transparency over and over again. And I think we have to say here in the city of Chicago, in this, he has failed as he has failed in so many other measures. And the only way that we're going to correct measures like this, whether it's TIFs, whether it's police murders, or what have you, is if the people of Chicago truly have the input that they not only deserve, but is mandated by Illinois state law. In a few moments, after Rick speaks, we're going to be having one of our attorneys, Alan Mills of the Uptown People's Law Center, who will discuss more of the legal aspects. But before we do that, I'd like to ask Rick Garcia here, longtime activist in the LGBT community and many other issues as well, to address what he witnessed and what it means to him.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Rick Garcia, R-I-C-K-G-A-R-C-I-A, and I'm a resident of the 48th Ward in Chicago. On July 22nd, a friend and I wished to attend the City Council meeting, and we arrived early at 8:30. And we were directed to stand in front of the metal detectors. We were the 4th and 5th persons in line at 8:30. While we stood there, staff shepherded large groups of interns, they called them, around us. One group, another group, another group. At 10 a.m., the officers informed us that the City Council chamber was full. and none of us would be let in. For more than 2 hours, we stood there, and not one was let in. We could not hear or witness the proceedings of the City Council. I have attended City Council meetings since 1986, and not one of us in line, I have attended City Council meetings since 1986, and I have never seen the general public excluded in this fashion or such disregard for the general public. Usually when the chamber is full, and there are a lot of contentious issues, that chamber does get full. When that chamber gets full, people stand in line. When one comes out, one goes in. When two come out, two go in. That didn't happen this time. This intentional icing out of the public who has the right to see, to hear, and participate in council meetings is wrong, and I believe it violates the Open Meetings Act, and that is why I am here today bringing this suit against Chicago City Council. Thank you.
We filed a lawsuit against the City Council of the City of Chicago, alleging that they violated the Open Meetings Act on 2 different occasions during their May meetings and during their June meetings. There were 2 violations we allege. The first is the one that Mr. Garcia just described, where they literally would not let people in. That's a very important right that the City of Chicago, or the State of Illinois, has imposed on the City of Chicago. The city's business is supposed to be done in public. Far too much is done in the back rooms dealing, but at least when the City Council is formally in session, when it holds debates, when it holds votes, those are supposed to be done in public by state law. That law was clearly violated in this case. The second requirement of the Open Meetings Act is that there be a chance for the public to participate in those meetings. In this case, they weren't even allowed in the front door, let alone allowed to testify, allowed to address the council about an issue which has been extraordinarily controversial, not just in Uptown, but citywide, which is the misuse of the TIF funds. We believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant. Opening up the doors to the City Council, allowing the voters and the public inside to see what their elected officials are doing, watching how they vote, what they vote on, and what they say is crucial to a functioning democracy. Until we have that sort of transparency, we are asking the court to void any action it was taken during those meetings and require them to reconsider the ordinances in a properly open meeting after hearing from the public. Thank you.
I'm Kim Jeffries. I'm a 20-year plus resident of Uptown, and I've seen many things come and go, happen and not happen. It is very upsetting to know what they are actually doing with this TIF money without our consent, because it affects every resident, every City of Chicago member. We can't allow them to do this. Accountability means you tell what you're doing. You make it public. You address people who have concerns. And the way they're doing things, that is not happening. And that is not fair. This is a democracy, so it should act as one. Thank you.
I think the actions of the mayor and the city council go hand in hand with what we've faced in Uptown and the 46th ward around the city. Basically, it's the disenfranchisement and disallowment of participation by community residents, especially low and moderate income residents, especially residents of people of color. Specifically here, we have a situation where what's being proposed is that our dollars, all of our dollars, tax dollars, to the tune of $16 million, at a time when our schools funding is being cut, classroom sizes are astronomical and will be more astronomical going into this fall, at a time when homeless people are camped out a block away from where this luxury high-rise is supposed to go up, and there are more homeless encampments going up in Uptown, including on the campus of Stewart School, which was one of the 50 schools that our mayor so nobly closed down. The community has spoken on this issue. In 2012, there was a referendum in all the uptown precincts in which 79% of the people voted yes, that all TIF funds should be returned to the public bodies they came from, including the schools, the parks, the forest preserves, and in the future be used only for affordable housing, including shelters and transitional housing, living wage sustainable jobs and businesses, and programs for seniors and youth. If anybody can tell me how the $16 million going to a developer for apartments they're going to rent for over $2,000 for one bedroom fits that referendum, I will be very happy to agree with what happened. But the closing out of the community at a time when this ordinance was on the floor is once again this pattern of total disregard, shutting out and kicking around people whose voices will be heard. Thank you.
I'd like to invite, if anyone wants to say a few words, Ryan Colker, who is also with Uptown Tent City Organizers, Northside Action for Justice. Ryan has been a longtime activist in the Uptown community. His name is spelled R-Y-N-E-P-O-E-L-K-E-R.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak on the fact that this was something that was rushed. Before the City Council even voted on it, Alderman Burke got in front of the council floor and said this is of a particular urgency. And the reason that this was rushed was because they wanted to pass this development before they were required to include more affordable housing with TIF dollars. So this was something that was completely rushed so that they could cut a corner on providing affordable housing with city TIF money. They would prefer the TIF money be used on luxury housing rather than having to include a small marginal amount of more affordable housing. So there was a real financial incentive, a real motivation for them to rush this through and cut corners. It should also be noted that this developer has given $5,000 to Rahm Emanuel's re-election campaign. People who have worked for this developer have donated to Rahm Emanuel's re-election campaign. So it's no wonder that he would want to purposely keep people out of city council who are against this project. As it's stated in the press statement, we've had people here who are an hour and a half before the city council hearings, waiting in line, the first in line, and what happened was people from Airbnb and other constituencies that Mayor Emanuel sided with were given priority and were allowed to come in, walking right around us into the City Hall chambers, and we were cut out. We were told that eventually we would get in, and I never got in. So it was pretty blatant. I think the evidence will speak for themselves, and hopefully there's repercussions. We have a mayor who, after the cover-up of Laquan McDonald, thinks that he's just above the rules, that he can just do whatever he wants. And I think this is another example of him just doing whatever he wants and feeling like, you know, he can cut any corner that he wants to benefit his donors.
What would have gone differently if you all had gotten it? Would this TIF you contended would not have been passed? How would things have changed? How would the outcome have differed?
Well, for one thing, the transparency, I think, as others have mentioned, transparency is the best disinfectant. That a city council chamber full of people angry about their tax money going to luxury housing instead of people living under bridge viaducts a few hundred yards away. I think that would have made a pretty powerful impact. Whether the vote would have gone our way, that's sheer speculation. The point is that this mayor, especially since the Laquan McDonald murder, has tried to shield himself from the public, tried to surround himself with select audiences of his wealthy and well-connected friends, and people in the city of Chicago are sick and tired of it. And to do that in a city council meeting, which is supposedly the highest body of this government, is a direct slap in the face of even the pretense of democracy.
That scene where you guys offered spaces in the upstairs gallery?
No, we were not offered spaces in the upstairs gallery. In the June meeting, Mr. Garcia went up to the upstairs gallery and was told that that was barred, but that wasn't even offered to us in the May meeting.
So how many people were moved to the front in front of people who were waiting, and was it like people in Airbnb shirts? Who were these people, and how many of them were kind of ushered through while people were waiting in line?
Well, it should be clear, there was a committee meeting before the city council meeting in May, and we were told repeatedly that, okay, people with Airbnb that are concerned with this matter, a lot of them had t-shirts and so forth indicating that they're concerned with it, that they could go into the committee meeting ahead of us. Once the committee meeting was terminated, they would be all ushered out, and that we could take their place. Those of us who've been waiting there since 8:30 a.m., way before the Airbnb folks. That did not happen. In fact, we've got videotape of both meetings showing people waiting in line. In fact, one of our videotapers, who unfortunately isn't here today, but I'd be happy to share that video with anyone who's interested in it, shows one of our people saying, "Sir, don't you realize this is an open violation? This is a violation of the Open Meetings Act. You're not letting anyone in. You're letting all these other people in." As for the Airbnb people, I personally witnessed dozens going in. Rick can speak to the, it sounded like dozens of people that were coming in during the June meeting.
And were those Airbnb people as well?
From what we were told, what I was asked when I arrived, are you an intern? And when we said no, the 2, 3, 4 of us were sent to the metal detector, and then they brought in these interns. I don't know who they were, just like young people kept coming around and going in and coming around and going in. And there we stood.
Dozens of, how many interns
Dozens.
would you say?
Well, yeah, a few dozen, yeah. Well, obviously enough to close the chamber to the rest of the citizenry. And you know, and again, you know, first come, first serve there. But that was certainly not the case. And I even had an ordinance in there that I wanted to witness. It passed, but they never should have just blocked who can go in and who cannot go in. It's just wrong.
Now, what about, I mean, aren't these meetings available by video and audio? I mean, could that be the argument that it's still open? You know, you can still view it or listen to it.
I'm sorry.
Live stream, it's available on live stream. Could they argue that this doesn't violate open meetings because you could watch it on, you just watch it on the internet?
It isn't, I don't believe it is live streamed. I do know that videotape appears a few days later, but that is no substitute for, as I said, people being not only in the gallery, but as specified under the Open Meetings Act, the fact that people are supposed to be able to give an opportunity to comment, like they are at, say, police board meetings or any number of other public bodies. Now, the City Council is not exempt from the provisions of the Open Meeting Act. There is nothing in the Open Meeting Act that says the City Council is not supposed to allow people in, is not supposed to allow public comment during its sessions.
Right, and just to kind of be devil's advocate, I mean, they could say these interns or whoever, that was the public. They were inside, they could have commented.
Well, they didn't wait in line with everyone else. They were ushered in well after many people had been waiting in line. And we've got videotape of this, just tons of people on the second floor, waiting in an area just very similar to this, waiting to get inside. That was the same day as the Chicago Teachers Union route. That was the same day that people were advocating for an elected police accountability council. None of those people were allowed in.
What you allege is certainly sneaky, but how confident are you, in layman's terms, that it's illegal?
Oh, I am not an attorney, okay? But he is. And I read the Open Meetings Act, and it's right there in black and white that the City Council is supposed to not only allow people in, like any other public body, other than the Illinois legislature, which exempts itself, and also allow public comment. There is no exception except for items that have to do with public safety, but it's right in there. You don't need an attorney to read the Open Meetings Act, and it's very plain language. I'll let Alan speak to that.
I agree with Andy's analysis of the ordinance. The statute is extremely clear. They certainly can limit the number of people that come in, but this idea that city staffers can come in who were not in line in order to exclude the public is nothing to do with the Open Meetings Act. It's clearly a violation of the Open Meetings Act. It's not meant for staff to come in. And I ask, why are the city's people who are supposed to be doing city business sitting there watching the city council meeting in the first place? But certainly it should be a first come, first serve. And frankly, this is a game that's being played by the city council for years. And it used to be first come, first serve. They would try to stack it with people, and that's why people show up now an hour and a half before meetings to make sure they're first in line. And they succeeded in being first in line. And the city said, well, forget it. We'll just put people around you, even though you are first in line. So it's not fair, it's not legal, it violates the spirit, and we believe also the explicit language of the Open Meetings Act, open to the public staffers.
So what was really going on here?
They were trying to do something behind closed doors that they knew was going to be unpopular. They knew that the public opposed this. They knew that this was a giveaway, which has made tons of press about the abuse of the TIS system in Chicago. This was going to be yet another abuse in the sense that this is one of the most valuable chunks of undeveloped land in the city of Chicago. It is on the lakefront, on the north side, in the lakefront, right across the street from other high-rise developments. And here they want $16 million of taxpayer money just yards away from a school which they had to close because they didn't have money to keep it open. So clearly this is not something the neighborhood supported, not something the public is going to support. So when you're trying to do something that's unpopular, you try to do it at a time when nobody's watching. That's what they're trying to do.
The mayor's office and aldermen?
None. We filed a lawsuit, and we are asking the...
When this happened?
I tried in May. I tried to pigeonhole every city official that I could find. I spoke to a man and I asked, well, who is the sergeant at arms or whatever here? Can I speak to him or her? And they said, no, you couldn't, but that he'd relay my message. And we have it on videotape. People buttonholing various city hall officials and saying, don't you know that this is a violation of the Open Meetings Act? And yet they went ahead and not only continued in their practice, but they then again did it at the following meeting where they excluded everyone, except for those chosen few.
So Randy, what do you think was really going on here?
I think it was a matter of trying to pass something, a deeply unpopular measure, without having genuine public witness and outrage. Because I think if that city council meeting had been filled with a true representation of the public of Chicago, people would have been extremely upset, and they would have been protesting, frankly, because this is something that, as Mark has mentioned, has been voted against by Uptown residents over and over again. And here we are, especially in the wake of Laquan McDonald, where people are already suspicious about the mayor's motives, about frankly everything, and with good reason. Here he was, once again, ramming through a deeply unpopular measure, and that's why he's trying to not do it in the light of day.
The TIF thing in particular was the subject, if I'm not mistaken, of a lengthy, rancorous city council committee meeting a week before.
That's right.
There was testimony taken there, and lots of angry people spoke at great length about why they opposed this at that point. Could the argument be made that the opponents weren't given a chance to testify, and it was the committee meeting was the place to do that? They generally don't take testimony on anything they get the council meeting itself. They usually say, oh, we gave you guys 2 hours at the committee meeting. What do you say to that?
Well, the fact is that the Open Meetings Act very clearly says that all public bodies, and clearly the City Council itself as a public body, is subject to its statutes. And yes, some of us did testify at that committee meeting with a handful of aldermen in attendance, not the full City Council. And it's important for other alder people to hear this, because these TIFs are not only devastating poor and working class and people of color in the uptown neighborhood, but in neighborhoods around the city. And so the statute is very clear that the city council is a public body, and as such, they should be, as any number of public bodies around the city and state are doing, allowing public commentary as well as personal witness.
Just to be clear though, the hearing, the council meeting we were talking about on May the 18th was before the Finance Committee hearing. And we contend that if we had the ability to publicly say in front of the whole council what the issue really was, that ordinance that they were voting on, to send it to the Finance Committee and then to send it to the full council, we would have had an opportunity and a chance, which we didn't get, to lay out the facts and then to have the majority of the council at that point vote not even to send it to the Finance Committee. So we did not get that opportunity in clear violation.
And making your voices heard in these meetings.
If our voices were excluded, I for one would.
You're prepared
and
to
I did
protest
that,
or to stand up.
when John Burge was still employed by the city of Chicago, because then Mayor Richard M. Daley was not going to fire him. It was only in the wake of public outcry right around the country that they fired John Burge. But the practice of not allowing people to testify or give public comment in city council meetings, that particular thing is long-standing. It is a frontal violation of the Open Meetings Act. Other questions or comments? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.